Hi friends, welcome to Mountain Ridge Homestead. My name is Colleen and today is May 4th, and according to the Farmer's Almanac, in my Zone 5 in southwestern Quebec, in about 10 to 12 days would be our last frost date, and I should be able to be planting my garden. I technically could be planting my brassicas right now, or even probably a week ago, but we have had such horrible weather. It has been cold, rainy, and more rain, and so windy, like patio furniture knocked over windy. And a couple of days ago we had had just horrible hail, so I haven't even got them in the garden. But part of the reason I haven't also is I haven't really mapped out my garden, and it's a pretty significant garden, maybe not to some, but to me it is. And I lie in bed at night, every night I'm going, okay, I should be putting this here, I should be putting that there. And it's driving me crazy. I finally have to sit down and do it. It's another yucky day outside, and I want to get it mapped out. Now, I'm a very visual learner. I need things to be like literally mapped out. Just to write on a paper and say, bed 1 needs this, this, and this, I won't retain the information. I need to see it on a paper, like the boxes, and fill it in. And then if I need to change it around, that's fine. I can just literally change things from box to box. So I'm sure some people do it this way, other people have their own way of doing it, and that's fine. We each have our own way. So I'm gonna do it my way and how it works for me. And I thought if you join me, we could do it together. I just made a fresh cup of coffee and in my favorite mug. And if you come along, we could do it together. And then eventually we can see if what I actually put down on plans actually happens out in the garden. So I'm gonna bring you down close and I'll show you what we're gonna do. Here's the list of all the things that has to go in the garden. So it's a pretty big list, but it's almost the same as what I grew last year, maybe a few different things. Maybe I cut back on a few things or added things according to what I did in my pantry inventory list. And sometimes I just try 1 or 2 new things just for fun. So I take that list and then I take, well, what I'll do is I'll show you what my garden kind of looks like. So the black lines is the fence all around the big garden. And what I have, this isn't to scale, I'm no professional. I have 4 garden beds that are, these beds are 4 feet wide by 16 feet long. And I have 4 of them. And this is an in-ground garden that's about 40 by 40 feet. And I know that doesn't look 40 by 40. That's just the way I drew it. It's not to scale. So some of my things obviously go in the boxes and other things I put in the beds. And then what I do around here on these sides, I go like here so I don't waste any space whatsoever. Around here, I do Ruth Stout potatoes. I do 3 kinds of gardening, kind of. Here I do in-ground, and the boxes I do square foot method, and here I do Ruth Stout. And then usually along here, I guess you probably can't see that in pencil. Here is where I'm gonna do all potatoes with Ruth Stout. And then I usually even keep a few buckets along here with sometimes more potatoes, lettuce, different things like that. Usually things that I can plant twice through the year, that like a lettuce, something that will grow, I can take it out and get something back in. So I have to fill 4 beds that are 4 by 16, and this in-ground garden that's about 40 by 40. So I'm going to start with the in-ground garden because I kind of know more what I'm putting in there offhand than I do with the boxes. So I'm going to do about 9 rows that are going to be about 4 feet apart because I need lots of room when I go down my aisles. I don't like it cramped. I like there to be good airflow. And I go down sometimes on a little scooter or whatever, so I need room to maneuver. So this would be over here would be the wooden boxes, and at the end of where the fence would be over here, I have some blueberry plants. So they're protected from animals. So I know right away that in these 2 rows, I'm going to put tomatoes. And there's a reason why I'm putting them here. Because the sun sets here and it sets there. So I'm going to get sun all day long, south exposure. They're going to get the tallest in the garden. And if I put them pretty well anywhere else, they're going to shade out anything. And then I guess next year when I have to rotate crops, I'll kind of shift everything so the tomatoes are in the back. So I'm going to do 2 rows of tomatoes and then probably 2 rows of peppers because they'll probably be the next 2 tallest things, and I kind of like growing them together. And if I need more room for tomatoes, I'll put a few more here and not have as many peppers, if that makes sense. But what I'd like to do also back in this space, because I don't want to put too many things encroaching near the blueberries, is I think over here I'm going to grow my peas, and then over here in row 1 and 2, this gets a wee bit of shade later in the day, and I think that would help a bit with the brassicas not always being in the sun all the time. And I need at least 2 rows for them. So I'm going to do brassicas here. And down here, where I know the shade doesn't come, where it's hot all the time or sunny all the time, I'm going to do some cucumbers. Because both of these things need to be trellised high. They'll be out of the way. So we'll do some cucumbers. So all of a sudden, all this room that I have is already being taken up just by a few things already. So from here, what I think, actually, I'm going to take my other list and start scratching things off. Tomatoes, peppers, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, peas, cucumbers. I still may put cucumbers somewhere else, but we'll see. And I think what I'm going to put here, no, here I'm going to put some green beans. Oops, wrong color. I'm going to do some green beans. I may not do the full row because that's, believe me, a lot of green beans. So maybe like 1/4 of the way down, I might put something else. So I can cross up, and when I say green beans, I may add in a few yellow beans with it because I like them when I do the 3-bean salad. So down here, I could like still add like a zucchini or a squash or something like that. And then in this row, I'm going to put, I'm trying Brussels sprouts this year. And I didn't do them as starts, so I'm gonna do them as seeds. So I'm gonna put Brussels sprouts here. And the package says I can start them from seeds and sprouts and get a fall harvest if I do it outside. So I'm gonna try it. I don't know if it's gonna work. It'll be an experiment. And here I am gonna put some winter squashes and maybe a watermelon, because my plan is when these come out of the garden by like July-ish, the vines from the squashes will then have lots of room to grow this way, and they won't interfere with anything there, because all of this is woven weave fabric, and they won't be growing on any grass or anything like that. So I purposely want to put most of the vining things here, so when these are all lifted out of the garden by like July and these are mature plants, I can direct the vines this way and I can still freely walk around over there. So here I'll just say like squashes and maybe like a watermelon. I know I have to keep them a certain amount of feet apart to not cross-contaminate. So I can kind of cross off, let's say, a watermelon and the Brussels sprouts. So we've already made good headway just in the big garden alone. So I'm going to put this aside just for a minute, and then I'm going to get to the boxes. So the boxes, I already know certain things already. I don't know. Is it upside down that way? I have no idea for you. I'm sorry. I'm going to, these two boxes here, these are double stacked. And they have very rich, loose soil in both of them on purpose, because I'm going to put carrots in here and potatoes in here. And I know I have potatoes in around the garden here, but I'm also putting some here. We grow a lot of potatoes and it lasts us through the whole year. So I'm putting some here as well. And I like to cover my bases. Sometimes a roost out doesn't do as well as a in-ground and vice versa. And kind of under here, we have kind of like the hugelkultur thing going there. So, and I have some garlic already planted there that's coming up. And in this garden, I have perennial herbs, and then I add a few annuals in with that. So I still have to add, oh, I guess we can cross off the potatoes and the carrots. So now, I have lots of onions. Oh, and the garlic. We're doing great. Garlic. Okay, so I want to grow parsnips. I love parsnips, and I didn't grow any last year. Coffee break, sorry. But they kind of need deep soil too. And I might sneak a patch in here, because once I pull the potatoes, I can almost get a second harvest of carrots in here. So what square footage I'm giving up here for carrots, I can almost get a wee bit of another harvest this summer when the potatoes come up. So I'm not really losing too much bit there. And onions, I'm trying to think of the best place for onions. I think I will do this whole bed of onions. Like I have Walla Walla, I have Spanish onions, and some red onions, which I'll probably need a bed and a half. So the half here, I think I'm gonna do red onions. I know they don't store well, but we like them for fresh eating, and they do store for a little bit of time. So again, we can cross off the parsnips and the onions. Okay, and I'm bunching onions like the green onions. So because this is already like a half bed, I can put like a few miscellaneous things here. I don't really get into all that companion planting and all that. I know there's a few things that you're not supposed to plant with each other, but other than that, I just kind of plant where I want. So I can do like a little part here of the green onions. And then I can do like here, maybe a zucchini. I'm only going to grow a couple of plants. Last year I did 3 and I had so much zucchini. And then I can, what else? I have kale. I just grow a couple of plants. We're not too fond of it, but the chickens love it. So I'll grow some kale here. So right there, we got rid of the bunching onions and the kale. And here, even though, like I said, I have perennial herbs, I always add annuals in, like parsley, basil, and sometimes I can overwinter time. One of my times came back, one didn't. So I always have to add a few there, but I always leave space for it so the herbs can come off. And so over here, these beds get a little bit of afternoon shade. And what I like to put there is spinach, Swiss chard, some lettuce, things like that, even though they're still growing for me anyway, like into July, when it still gets really hot, they're not into the heat of the summer in the afternoon. So here I would definitely put, oh, celery. I didn't have it on my list. So I'm going to put, and I have quite a bit, so I'm going to put half this bed of celery. Notice I'm writing in pen, not even pencil. I'm that committed. Celery. And then I'm going to do at least half of this Swiss chard. And then probably more lettuce here. And I'd say at least half this bed spinach. I love spinach. I have a really good recipe for it that I'll show you in the summertime. And then I just posted a few weeks ago a little video montage of our garden from last summer, and it was our first summer here. And even though my in-ground garden has the woven weave fabric, all around the boxes was grass, like green grass, because we just put the boxes on top. And as pretty as it looked when the grass was cut and we had like weed whacked all around, it was absolutely beautiful. It was hard to maintain. And whenever you cut the grass, all the grass cuttings like flew into the garden beds and everything. So this year we're going to put the fabric all around the beds as well. And there's another reason why I'm doing that too. Because I grow a lot of squash, or the winter squash, and they have to be separated from cross-contamination. If I grow any winter squash in my raised beds, if they grow, let's say I put a squash here in the corner, which I'd like to do, and the vine grows onto the grass, I can't cut the grass around that. The grass grows tall, it gets very wet, muddy, and I find generally the squash can rot underneath, or, it invites more bugs and damp, muddy, whatever. So I think by adding the woven weave fabric around, and there's only 4 feet between each bed, that now I can, in little pockets like here and there, I can add like a winter squash or a watermelon, and I can let them vine over the side, and I don't have to worry about grass growing over them, or when it rains that they're sitting in a puddle of water or anything. So it's more than I budgeted for the garden this year, but I think in the long run, it's a good investment. It gives me much more flexibility on where to put the squashes and to keep them separate from each other. So it hasn't arrived yet. We still have that to do, but I can still plant the plants. They're not going to get that big yet, so we have time to do that. So spinach, and then the lettuce, and and then I can still do, I only put one zucchini there, so I'll do another, zucchini here, and that will probably be it for the zucchinis. Now, I still have this other bed, so I can cross off the zucchini, the lettuce, spinach, and Swiss chard. So all I really have left on my list is pumpkins and sweet potatoes, because I fit in like the watermelons and the other things like that. And I still have a whole bed left that I'm pretty shocked at, but this is just on paper. I'm going to kind of leave that bed open because this looks fine on paper, but I may have had way more onions started than I thought. I maybe have way more lettuce started than I thought. I have all my plants started for, even though I want all my tomatoes and peppers and that in the big garden, and I usually end up giving a lot of my starts away because I do plant so many. I'm always nervous when I start that if some don't make it, I'll have not enough for the garden. That I can still plant other things here. I'm not limited to just what I wrote here. So I like having an extra bed left over. It gives me more options. If I wanted to plant another zucchini or another squash, or I could add more dirt to this and make it higher for more parsnips. I don't have to stick to this per se, but now I have a really good idea of how I want to do my garden. It's not set in stone. And other than the sweet potatoes, I've pretty well crossed everything off my list. And what I'll probably do with the sweet potatoes is I'll take a chunk of what I've allowed for regular potatoes, because I don't know why the only vegetable I cannot grow is a sweet potato. I can't grow the starts very well. Even if I've purchased starts, I can't get them to grow very well. I can grow anything but a sweet potato, but I try every single year. So I will put a little bit of real estate here for sweet potatoes, and I'll probably give a bucket or two to sweet potato. And then other than that, I have everything on my list covered. So I don't know, I probably rambled on and maybe confused you a bit, but that's how I do it. Now it's left my head, it's kind of on paper, but it gives me still freedom to play around with it, and I don't have to think so much when I go out to the garden with my starts or my seeds. I now have a basic idea of what I want to do. And I don't have to go to bed tonight thinking, okay, I'll put this here, I'll put that there. So I don't know, maybe this is helpful to you in some way. Maybe you have a different way of doing it. Please let me know. Share with what you do. Maybe you have a much better way. Obviously, this is very old school. I don't do it on a computer program or anything like that. I like to see things, write it down, erase, use different colors. But anyway, I hope this was helpful to you. And if you have ideas, let me know. And we can share information. That's the best way to learn. So thank you very much for spending time with me. And until we're together again, take care.